Hello and a warm welcome to Federal's special program, Capital Beat, and a very happy Independence Day to the viewers of the Federal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today addressed the nation from the ramparts of the Red Fort on the occasion of the 77th Independence Day. It was a 90 minutes speech which he made, and where he listed out the achievements of his government in all the sectors. He addressed the citizens of India as his Parivar Jan, that is the family members. Then he held the mirror to 2047. He listed out all what he intends to do during the Amrit Kal. He also said with all the confidence that he will return next year to unfurl the national flag from the ramparts of the Red Fort. That is the confidence which he exuded. But to list out his political points which he mentioned, he listed out the three burayas or the three ills which he listed out. That was nepotism. He listed out the word nepotism for 12 times. Corruption, he mentioned 11 times. Appeasement, he mentioned 8 times. So how would you rate this speech by Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Is it a self-confident or an overconfident Modi? Then another question, and which everybody is talking about, is that he sounded very, very repetitive, and it almost looked like an election speech. Was the speech full of rhetoric or bluster? All this we'll discuss. I have a very special panel with me. Independent journalist Smita Gupta with us. Thank you so much, Smita, for joining. Javed Ansari, senior journalist and editor. Thank you so much. Vivek Deshpande, senior journalist, joins us from Nagpur. Thank you so much, Vivek. And I'll begin with Smita Gupta today. Smita, how would you really rate Prime Minister Modi's speech? And we just heard him speak for 2 hours, 20 minutes during the no confidence motion inside Parliament. How was today's speech different than what he spoke inside Parliament?
Well, I would say, referring to something that you earlier said, that today's speech was, on Independence Day, one expects a statesman-like speech, a speech that is inspirational, which says something to the people, to inspire them. But this was not like an election speech. It was an election speech. And he said very categorically, he said that मैं आशीर्वाद लेने आया हूँ. He said that. Of course, there was the bluster. He said that you will see me again on August 15th next year at the same place, same time. But the fact is, it was an election speech. And as you pointed out, he took pot shots at the opposition. He talked about the 30 years of instability that his government had ended in 2014.
Yes.
And that his three targets were corruption, parivarvad or nepotism, as you put it, and appeasement. And obviously, when he talks about parivarvad, it's a direct attack on the Congress party and on the luminaries of the new opposition coalition, the India coalition, whether we are talking about the Rashtriya Janata Dal, or we're talking about the Samajwadi Party in UP, or we're talking about the DMK in Tamil Nadu. Secondly, he, as is typical of Mr. Modi and of people in the BJP, there were coded messages. On more than one occasion, he talked about 1,000 years of slavery, which is an anti-Muslim message. It kept recurring. It was a recurring theme in his speech. And along with that, when he talked about Tushtikaran, appeasement, again, he emphasized that message. So he emphasized his anti-Muslim message without using the word Muslim. He also talked about appeasement being opposed to samajik nyay or social justice. But all of us who cover politics know that these are also code words. Appeasement is only of Muslims, and samajik nyay or social justice always refers to OBCs. And along with that, we had in 2019, just before the last general elections, he had announced the Ayushman Bharat, the big health scheme. This time, he announced a scheme for OBCs. I can't quite Vishwakarma Jayanti. And he said, I'm going to announce the details later. So you can see this is an election speech, and the way he got all his messages, you know, back in, maybe in a slightly different form. He used the usual slogans, nation first. He talked about democracy, uh, um, uh, uh, demography, and diversity. When he talked about demography and he talked about the demographic dividend in this country, he addressed the youth of this country, which was a good thing. But instead of promising them jobs, all he did was offering them opportunities that might come to them through some schemes. Basically, it's the same theme of entrepreneurship, but not everybody in this country is suited for entrepreneurship. And if you travel, especially in the Hindi heartland, what people are looking, young men are looking for are jobs. They're looking for government jobs, or jobs in the corporate sector or whatever. They are not so many, there aren't that many who are actually got those entrepreneurial skills that will give them a good living.
Right. Javed, if I may come to you, Jairam Ramesh has hit out Modi's speech and hit out very hard. And he says that, it's all about Durniti, it's about Anyay. This is what he has written. In fact, Congress has given a detailed statement on this, and how they have said that it was full of lies, exaggerations. Now, what would you really say when it comes to how truthful Modi sounded today, while listing out the data, while listing out statistics, while listing out his achievements? How truthful were his commitments today during his speech?
Neelu, I've always believed that had Prime Minister Narendra Modi, had he been a cricketer, he would have been India's best spinner. He would have put Bishan Singh Bedi, Erapalli Prasanna, B.S. Chandrasekhar to shame, because the yarn that he spins is unparalleled. And of all the portfolios that he holds, he should add one more portfolio to him, that is horticulture. This business of planting. He has this unique ability to spin a positive, give everything a positive yarn. So if it's COVID, he'll spin a positive yarn. If it's demonetization, he has something positive to say. If it's joblessness, there's something positive. And statistics only tell you half the truth. The details lie in the detail. I mean, the devil lies in the details. So while he was claiming that we've done this much and we'll be a 5 trillion economy, I pray that I live to see the day when we become a 10 trillion economy. But what about, how does it affect this 10 million trillion or 5 trillion? How does it affect the person on the street? Tomatoes are 300 rupees a kg. Aloo kitna mehenga hai, pyaz. I mean, my maid and my driver, every day I see them, I feel so guilty the way they're having to eke out their living. So what kind of effect is it having? It's all very good to talk, patch up. It's very easy to be a legend in your own mind. To be able to pat your back is the easiest thing in the world. I've done this, I've done that, humne ye kar diya. But what is the effect it's having on people? How has it made life any difficult for the have-nots, for people who've been suffering all along? They're finding it. Gas cylinders were given earlier on a subsidy. Now that subsidy has been removed, half the people can't even buy it. Vegetables are difficult. Everything. I mean, there's joblessness. You see people in the villages, you see people in small towns, they're searching for jobs. And he mentioned nepotism, corruption, and appeasement. Most important, the glaring omission was divisiveness, toxicity, the poison, the hate, the kind of communalism that divides our society. When a man in uniform who's sworn to protect the Constitution takes his rifle and shoots down 3 people just because they happen to be born in a particular community, then what does it tell you? What kind of a comment is it of the level of poison and the toxicity that is breeding in our society? So he forgot to, he's the master of the pulpit. He occupies the bully pulpit. And every evening in television debate, he wins the debate and he wins elections as far as TV is concerned. But please go and ask those people who are suffering. how has this 5 trillion, how has these 9 years made any difference to their lives? I would like some television channel, yes, all these highly paid Godi media anchors to try and do a story. Obviously, they won't do it. At least commission a story on how has life become any better or worse, or is it the same in these 9 years, 10 years of this golden Amrit Kal of India?
Right. No, absolutely. That's an important point. And in fact, I just picked one or two lines, Vivek, from his speech, where what Javed was saying, just taking a little ahead on the same point. During his speech, he says that मैं सपने आपके लिए देखता हूँ. Parivarjan address the people of India as his own family members. And he says that I dream for you. I sweat out for you. He says, मैं आपके लिए सपने देखता हूँ. मैं आपके लिए पसीना बहाता हूँ. This is what he said. And आपके हर दुख में शामिल होता हूँ. You know, those kind of things. Now, will the common man get swayed? Because if he is trying to address the citizens of India with an eye to next year's elections, he's almost begging that, look, this is all what I have done for the country and you must vote for me. That's the tone he had. But will the common man get swayed by Modi's speech, what he said today?
Yeah, Nilu, actually, that's a very important point. You see, why he's talking about himself is because he knows that he is the only factor that remains in BJP's as BJP's strong point in the 2024 elections. Rest of the things have really slipped out of BJP's hands. I mean, the whole narrative against corruption and nepotism. We all know how they have bought MLAs and MPs from outside. And the worst example of that is in Maharashtra. I mean, in Ajit Pawar, you have both the family rule and corruption planks of the BJP going haywire. I mean, he doesn't. He is not only an entitled family rule politician, but his corruption also they have talked about. So you know, all their narratives have really gone fat, and as a result of which now he has to bank only on his persona. That is the only strength that BJP is left with. And the BJP from within is very uncertain about how things will turn out in 2024. And their only best bet is Mr. Modi. So Mr. Modi feels the need to sell himself. And that is why he talks in terms of me, I. Of course, I mean, he has been talking about himself for a long time now. But this time he really has to sell himself very hard to the electorate. And that is the reason why he is saying that. But you see, from 2014 onwards, the kind of speeches that he gave, in the first speech in 2014, what he says is this country has come this far because of the cooperation between the opposition and the ruling party. Now, he's obviously referring to the opposition as his own party, and the ruling party was then the Congress for a long time. And Congress plus their alliance partners. So what happens to that cooperation now? The opposition gets completely sidelined, not only sidelined, but he has let out those ED and central agency officials against the opposition, and he's hounding them, his government is hounding them, as a result of which they have got united. And that has precisely become their worry. Now the situation from 2019 has changed so much. I mean, there is no alternative factor. The TINA factor has really petered out, and there is a very strong alternative now compared to 2019. And that is the reason why Modi wants to sell himself very hard this time. He knows that he is the only strong factor in favor of the BJP, and the BJP also knows that. So that is why he's talking in terms of that. And as far as his speech today is considered completely politically loaded speech. It was an election speech. The worst thing is that he is talking in front of dignitaries from other countries. I mean, he should not be saying all those things in front of them. When he criticizes Rahul Gandhi, when he goes abroad and says something about the government of India, the whole BJP goes hammer and tongs against Rahul Gandhi. But when he talks about the Gandhi family, by not taking their name, but saying it in so many words, all the same, in front of a gathering which contains, foreign dignitaries, ambassadors and diplomats, then what right does he have to criticize Gandhi when he goes out of the country and says something about his government? So it's completely hypocritical. And I think when he says that he will address the gathering in 2024, he is not exuding confidence. I think he is borrowing some confidence for 2024. Nelu.
Okay, so you're saying that he's borrowing some confidence, but Smita, if I may ask you that the most rhetorical question which comes out of this particular line, which he says that I'm going to return to the Red Fort to unfurl the flag next year. As a journalist, and everybody will ask that how does Narendra Modi know the next year's mandate? Should we not question this part as well? That Narendra Modi is so confident, he already knows what next year's results will be.
Well, that's a very good question, because that is something that many people have asked also about election results in the last few election results. I think somebody in Ashoka University also did some kind of research on that subject. But I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody, including Mr. Modi. But instead, I would like to comment on Mr. Modi's changing approach, the way he's able to change his narrative each time to try and include more people. So today, for the first time, in his speeches, usually he says bhaiyon or behno. But today he went one step further and he was talking about everybody as being part of his family. This is part of the RSS's credo. The RSS always wants people to be part of its parivar. Other political parties want people who believe in their ideology, but they don't expect them to be family members. I recall, because I covered the BJP for many years, a very senior BJP leader who I shall not mention, he was a bit exasperated with me, and he told another BJP leader in front of me, एक दिन हम इनको भी अपना परिवार में शामिल कर लेंगे. So that is the ultimate thing of bringing you into the family fold, So we have seen in these 9 years, he also created this whole community of Labharti, which is actually a horrible thing, meaning his relationship with all of us is that we are beneficiaries and he is this God who hands out things. But you'll see it's a word that is used. So he's constantly, you become a Labharti, now you become a member of his family. Then, he plays his games of dividing caste. Today it was appeasement versus social justice. So, I don't know whether this is going to work, whether people will be so thrilled to be part of his family, to be acknowledged as members of his family, that they will, but I'm just pointing out that each time he tries to tweak this story. The only people who are not part of his family, I think, are Muslims, and even maybe the people of Manipur, because, in his parliament speech, he referred to Manipur after 1 hour, 45 minutes. Today, he referred to Manipur in the first 10 minutes. And I think it was, in a way, responding to that kind of criticism that has come from the opposition, that you don't care. A part of the country is burning, people are dying, people are being, displaced, and it doesn't matter to you. And even the reference he made was very cursory. And I think he made one more reference towards the end. But it was like, it was some minor thing. This is something the double engine sarkar in Manipur will fix, हम दोनों मिलकर इसको कर लेंगे. So there is a gap between how he feels about the people of the country, which emerges from such things. Because if they were members of his family, then, you would take better care of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But Javed, one thing which also struck me today, and I think we must discuss, and that was that normally, even when he's traveling abroad, he's addressing the international audience, he never refrains from talking about the opposition in a very pointed manner. Today, he refrained from doing that. He never mentioned Congress. He never mentioned DMK. Of course, there was a generalized reference with the word Parivarvad, but he never made a pointed reference. Do you see this as some kind of a deliberate divergence in which Modi didn't want to indulge in?
Well, it would have been very un-prime ministerial for him to have done so. Because Independence Day, when you're addressing from the ramparts of the Red Fort, you're addressing Minister of India. The politics is kept to an aside. So even in his 9th year, in the last year of his reign, if this nicety, if this wisdom has dawned on him, so very good. I congratulate the Prime Minister. As far as the question you asked, Smita, that why does he need, I'm coming back in 24, I'm coming back in 24. It's like, you know, when you're playing a important match and you have a very strong opponent, we'll win this. If he's so confident within, why does he have to keep thokoing his tal that I'm coming back in 24? If he comes back in 24, we'll all know, the nation will know if he's come back in 24. So what is it that he knows which we don't know so clearly, is that does he know something that we are not aware of, which is that he's uncertain about 24. That's why he needs to keep assuring himself. This bravado probably is to boost up the morale of his troops, of his ministers, and of his party men, of his cadres, and also to create this impression, so that his cheerleaders can lap it up. Oh, we are coming back, we are coming back, we are coming back.
Yeah.
Whereas their reality, I don't know. The reality could be different. Maybe he will come back. I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, the jury is still out on that. We'll know only once the last ballot is cast.
Absolutely.
Whether he's coming back.
Right. Smita, you were raising your hand. You wanted to say something.
Point in connection with this. We saw the government in this session of Parliament bringing in a bill to change the way chief election commissioners and election commissioners are selected. And they wanted to remove the Chief Justice of India and put in a minister so that the panel would be loaded in favor of the government. So I just put it on the table that they want to control the election commission even more than in the past.
Right. In fact, during the course of his speech, Vivek, you must have seen where he said that हमने और नियमों को और कड़ा बना दिया है, and he was referring in context with the properties which have been seized of the corrupt people. He said हमने इतने कड़े नियम बनाए हैं. Now he's more and more emphasizing on harsher laws, stricter laws, by which he doesn't seemingly understand that what is the repercussion it will have on the common man. But at the same time, he addresses the common men in their own language, and he tries to connect with them. What is this dichotomy which often comes out of Modi's character?
No, Nilu, I think that point that he made in terms of the property seized, is actually a response to the allegation that BJP has been facing about several industrialists running away with people's money from nationalized banks. So because he's facing those allegations for a long time, he is trying to counter that by saying that we have seized properties from defaulters 20 times more than it was ever in the past. So this is a response to that allegation. And about the corruption plank, what he has been saying over the years, he knows that his party has failed to capture people's imagination. Actually, the party has gone back on it by adopting all the corrupt people from the opposition. So he knows that this narrative is now not going down well with the people. People have realized that BJP is really not against corruption, and BJP is not averse to corruption. And there are several instances in the past when the BJP has provided information to the Supreme Court in sealed cover. So what kind of transparency is he talking about? So this point about transparency is also not well taken. So he knows a lot of problems are there in the BJP's narrative. He's trying to fix those gaps by putting out some kind of statistics, which I don't think is going to help at this fag end, because that narrative has sunk in really well and truly.
So Smita, if, in totality, if we talk about today's Modi speech, would we say that he sounded confident, or he is putting up a bravado, as what Javed just said? How would you really see his body language, the tone and tenor of his speech? How would you rate that?
As I said, it was an election speech, and clearly he is not as confident of winning the next election in the way that he has won the previous two. I'm not saying he's losing the election, because we have yet to see how this India coalition comes up. And perhaps it was not statesmanship on his part not to mention the political parties, but he may have thought that it's better not to mention the India coalition at all, pretend that nobody exists except he, It takes me back to the Gujarat elections when he started using masks. There were these Modi masks. And if you went to cover an election, if you turned left, you saw Modi. If you turned right, you saw Modi. You looked at the stage, you saw Modi. So the entire space was, filled with Modi. You didn't feel as a person that you had any option.
Right. But Javed, would the common man to whom Modi addressed today, would the common man also feel after listening to Modi's speech today that today's speech was all about himself and his image?
Well, the common man,
and he has nothing new to tell.
The common man will, like everybody else, like all of us, appreciate the turn of phrase, the rhetorical flourishes, the colorful headgear, all that he will appreciate. But he will also look at what is it in it for him at the end of the day. How is there a promise? Is there a hope for the future? Is there something that he can look forward to which will make his lot better? And when he does that, when he, when he decides to do a lekha jokha of this, an audit of the speech, then he will realize that there is nothing, there are no promises, there is no hope for the future, nothing that will make his life or his lot better.
Right.
Now, whether that will compel him to vote against Mr. Modi, we do not know. Because please bear in mind, maybe all this will not be an issue. Because on the 20th or the 22nd of January, the Ram Mandir will have been inaugurated. Apart from Kashi Vishwanath, there's already an application for Gyan Vapi. So so today there is Manipur and Gurgaon. Tomorrow, who knows? There may be half a dozen other things. The pot is being kept boiling. So whether these issues will be top of the mind when he goes, or whether his faith or his caste will be top of the mind, it will all depend on that.
You mentioned Gurugram, Javed, and if towards the end, Vivek, if I may ask you, Modi never mentioned a word about Haryana. Throughout his speech, the 90-minute speech which I heard, he did mention Manipur at the beginning. As Smita said, in the first 10 minutes, very unlike what he did during the no confidence motion, but no word on Haryana. So what Javed is saying, that, maybe they want to continue the communal pot to stir. They want that to continue being stirred. So was that the reason that he kept Haryana violence completely out of his speech?
You see, there have been instances of violence.
Yes.
Yeah. But there have been instances of violence and riots prior to this Independence Day speech also. He was faced with a situation where he could have referred to those, particularly lynchings and all. He never referred to that. There were so many instances of human rights violations. We know a Dalit girl being killed and raped in the UP, and the police behaving in the most unbecoming manner there. So he never referred to those things in his speeches. So there was no possibility of he referring to what happened in Haryana because it is part and parcel of BJP's ideological push, just as Article 370 and such other things are. So he would never refer because it's part of their program. They believe in low intensity violence against the Muslims. You see, when he referred to Pasmandas, he did not utter the word Muslim. He only said Pasmanda. He did not. He doesn't believe in talking about Muslims at all. So the irony of the thing is that when they talk about giving benefits of government schemes to Pasmanda Muslims, on the other hand, those who are the victims of the violence unleashed by their foot soldiers, they are Pasmanda Muslims only. So they would try to balance things out as far as the Muslims are concerned with such rhetorics about Pasmanda Muslims. When on the other hand, their foot soldiers are carrying out these kind of programs against the Muslim. So he would refer to positive things about positive things that he is doing to Muslims than referring to anything that is happening against them at the hands of his own foot soldiers. So that's a strategy. That's a clear-cut strategy. They do it with Christians also. They try to appease the Muslims in Kerala, whereas they try to attack the Christians in Manipur. So that is the part of their strategy. There's no way they can refer to those negative things, and they will always refer to something positive like triple talaq and Pastamanda Muslims. So that's the part of the strategy. I'm not surprised by he's not referring to the Haryana violence in his speech.
Absolutely. But in the meanwhile, if you look at the social media, the right-wing social media army is working overtime to put up the statements of bravado by Prime Minister Narendra Modi with one hashtag which says "Aayega to Modi." And of course, we should not miss what Mamta Banerjee said. Mamta Banerjee said that it's probably the last address by Prime Minister Narendra Modi from the ramparts of the Red Fort, to which he did respond and say that, yes, I will return next year. Yes, Vivek, you wanted to make a point?
Yeah,
Just
one small omission, I don't know it was by design or by mistake. He didn't talk about the Vishwa Guru thing. He spoke about Vishwamitra. I mean, not Vishwamitra, Vishwamitra. Because if you refer to Vishwamitra, it is an entirely different story. Then Minka also comes in. So Vishwamitra is something which is new. I don't know why he has kept the Vishwa Guru part of the story. Maybe it's the next step.
Well, we'll have to wait and watch how all this translates in terms of electoral politics, and how does, in fact, India Alliance now respond to this? How does it take this narrative to the people? That's going to be something to watch out for. Thank you so much, Smita Gupta, Javed Vivek. It was wonderful having you on the program. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this panel discussion, subscribe to our channel, send us your feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.